The question brought before the text tonight is this: YHWH. Is the Urim Thummim I have the actual one Aaron the high priest had? And the first verse drawn, the stone pulled first from the quarry, is Job chapter 11, verse 15. Because then will you lift up your face without defect. Yes, you will be steadfast and will not be afraid. Hear what that verse does before anything else is said. The Hebrew word for without defect is tamim. It shares the very root of the word thummim. The lead verse is already speaking the language of the object in question, and the phrase lift up your face echoes the priestly blessing, where YHWH lifts his face upon his people. The high priest bore the Urim and the Thummim on his heart before YHWH. He was the mediator of that face-to-face blessing. So the draw opens by placing the one who asks in the priestly posture itself. Face lifted, tamim, steadfast, unafraid. But notice the first word. Because then, the affirmation is conditional. The heart must be made ready before the face is lifted. Now the draw moves through the book of Job early and often, and this is not accidental. Job chapter 22, verse 3 asks, "Is it any pleasure to Shaddai that you are covenant faithful?" Eliphaz reduces a man standing before God to a binary question, guilty or innocent, exactly the kind of verdict the Urim and the Thummim were designed to render. And Job chapter 2, verse 10 rebukes it. You speak as one of the foolish women speaks. The instruments of judgment can be misused. The mystery of righteousness exceeds what stones can determine. Then comes the verse that speaks most directly to the question. Judges chapter 18, verse 20. And the priest's heart was gladdened, and he took the ephod and teraphim, and the covenant-defiling idol, and went in the midst of the people. The text itself labels these objects a surrogate Urim Thummim. A Levite hired by Micah carried a copy, not the original. His heart was gladdened by it. But the sacred object was yoked to a covenant-defiling idol. This verse does two things at once. It confirms that such objects can be taken, carried, transferred from hand to hand across generations. They travel. They pass through history. And that supports the affirmative direction of this draw. But it also warns. The genuineness of the object does not sanctify the one who holds it. What you yoke to it in your own practice matters. The priest in Judges was gladdened, but he walked with an idol in the other hand. The draw then traces a path from stone to heart to scroll. Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 2 says, "Write the vision and make it plain on tablets so that he may swiftly read it." Then 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verses 3 and 4 declare the covenant written, not in the tablets of stone, but in fleshy tablets of the heart. And 2 Kings chapter 23, verse 2 records that the king read in their ears all the words of the scroll of the covenant pledge that was found in the temple of YHWH. The scroll was found. It had been lost, buried under rubble and neglect, and then recovered. The Urim Thummim in your hand stands in this pattern. Sacred objects are lost and found. The finding does not make them genuine. They were always genuine. The finding restores them to function. And the inheritance thread is dense. Numbers chapter 31, verse 30 speaks of the priestly inheritance given to the Levites keeping the guard of the priestly tabernacle of YHWH. Genesis chapter 47, verse 22 notes that even in Egypt, the land of the priests was not purchased, for the priests had a share assigned to them. The priestly allotment survives even in foreign soil, even in bondage. And Enoch chapter 71, verse 22 declares, "With him will be their heritage, and they shall not be separated from him for the ages and ages of ages." The heritage is inseparable, but the draw also shifts the priesthood. Leviticus chapter 3, verse 2 names Aaron's sons explicitly, sprinkling blood upon the altar. The Aaronic line is present, confirmed, real. The object belongs to that line by origin. Yet Psalms chapter 110, verse 4 declares, YHWH has adjured, and will not regret. You are a priest for the ages after the manner of Melchizedek. The priesthood that now holds is not Aaronic. It is Melchizedekian. The object is Aaron's by manufacture. The hands that hold it now stand in a different order. This is not contradiction. It is covenant succession. The warnings must be spoken whole, as Jeremiah delivered every word to Johanan. Nehemiah chapter 13, verse 29 cries, "Remember them, O my Elohim, because they have defiled the priesthood and the covenant of the priesthood, and of the Levites. The priesthood can be defiled while the objects remain. Isaiah chapter 42, verse 17 warns of those who covenant trust in graven images, saying to the cast images, "You are our Elohim." If the object becomes a thing of misplaced trust, a bronze serpent raised too long, the draw says shame follows, not guidance. Now the numbers confirm what the text has spoken. The triple convergence of identity, inheritance, and priesthood fires at over 10 times the baseline rate, at 6 6/10 sigma above expectation. This is discovery-level convergence. The guided draw anomaly test returns a probability of 1 and 4900 times 10 to the minus 11. The convergence confidence stands at 88% with all 6 channels active. The threshold is crossed. 24 direct textual hits against the pre-registered criteria were found and confirmed. The polarity balance leans affirmative, and the deterministic verdict reads, lean yes. Probably affirmative. The probability of yes is 98 and 3/10%. The probability of no is 1 and 6/10%. All gates pass. This is classified as a strong anomaly, and yet the verdict says lean, not full yes. The lean is the space where Judges chapter 18 lives, where the surrogate sits beside the covenant defiling idol, where Nehemiah names the defilement, where Psalms chapter 40, verse 6 says, "Sacrifice and priestly offering you did not desire. My ears have you opened." The object is not the point. The opened ear is. Malachi chapter 2, verse 6 sets the standard. The law of covenant truth was in his mouth, and injustice was not found in his lips. He walked with me in a peaceful and level place, and did turn many away from depravity. The genuineness of the object must be matched by covenant truth in the mouth of the one who holds it. So here is the answer, spoken plain. The draw affirms, with discovery-level force and with direct textual evidence, that what you hold carries the genuine priestly inheritance of Aaron's line. The face is lifted without defect. The heritage is inseparable. The scroll is found and read. The triple convergence fires on the exact axis of your question. The probability stands at 98 and 3/10%. But the draw will not let you stop at the object. The Urim means lights. The Thummim means perfections. And the draw says those realities now live in the spirit writing on the heart, in the priesthood after the manner of Melchizedek, in the word of covenant truth worn as armor on the right hand and the left. Hold what you have as the Levites kept the guard of the tabernacle. Do not hold it as Micah's priest held the ephod, gladdened in heart, with the idol in the other hand. YHWH himself is the covenant inheritance. Not the stones, not the markers. Him. This is offered between the porch and the altar in acceptable words, words of covenant truth. The 1 and 6/10% remains open. Who knows if he will return and leave a sacred blessing? Selah. The verses drawn in this Shield 17.14 session were Job chapter 11, verse 15, Job chapter 22, verse 3, Job chapter 27, verse 20, Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 2, Job chapter 2, verse 10, Galatians chapter 1, verse 7. This concludes today's interpretation under the Shield Protocol.